Welcome back and thank you for staying with Inside Politics. Now, Deputy President William Ruto is facing expulsion from the Jubilee party for allegedly staging a power grab at the party headquarters when the party leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, is in France on official duties. Jubilee Party National Management Committee has asked the National Executive Council to urgently meet and consider its recommendation to kick out William Ruto from the deputy party leader position after he sanctioned the opening of the Jubilee Asili Center. The committee has also blocked Ruto from using the party headquarters as an operation center for his 2022 presidential campaign. Let's take a look at that report by our senior political affairs reporter, Patrick Kamimo.
A day after Deputy President William Ruto led more than 30 lawmakers for a meeting at the Jubilee Party headquarters that is based at Pangani, Nairobi, the party's National Management Committee held a crisis meeting and described the action as an attempted power grab. Members of the committee argue the move was a sign of disrespect to President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is also Jubilee Party leader. They have now blocked Ruto from accessing party head offices.
The deputy party leader, as a self-declared presidential candidate of 2022, will not be allowed to use the party headquarters as a center of operationalization of his 2022 campaign and to use the center for intimidation of potential opponents or intimidation of the staff.
Tuju says Ruto has often defied party positions in the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta.
It is no longer tenable for the deputy president to use the party platform, including statements from the party headquarters, to advance his divisive so-called hustler politics that are counter to the party and the president's platform of uniting the country.
Wengi wanasema mahasla ni wezi, mahasla sijui ni nini. Mimi nataka niwaambie, jameni, wacheni matusi.
Jubilee National Management Committee fell short of recommending Ruto's expulsion from the party.
The NMC has recommended to the NEC that the DP ceases to be deputy party leader after he opened the so-called Jubilee Asili offices that is reserved for him and his allies until such a time that this development of Jubilee Asili will be discussed at the NEC.
Reaction was swift from the Jubilee faction allied to the deputy president.
Raila, we amesungusha Uhuru, mpaka Uhuru ametoroka nyumba yake. Na sisi tunaambia mama yetu Ruto. Namwambia Ruto, na wewe ulitusaa sisi tuko watoto wakubwa. Na wewe usitoka kwa nyumba.
Hii ofisi ya Jubilee sio ile ODM, it is not a private property.
He is an ODM sympathizer. He does not need to be in Jubilee. Ndiye ameleta hii confusion yote.
Rafael Tuju sio MCA, hajachakuliwa na mtu yoyote. Amechukuliwa na naibu wa rais kutafutwa.
Ask for mandate from your people in a party that you will have a voice. Right now, you're our employee.
Ruto's faction called for Jubilee Party grassroots elections to put the house in order.
But there's nowhere where any faction of the party can give themselves the mandate to organize for such elections. It has to be done according to the law.
As party members, we shall also cease making further contribution monthly until that next party meets, of which they have said they are going to meet to decide what to do with the deputy party leader.
Eyes now will be on President Uhuru Kenyatta once he gets back into the country amid sibling rivalry that threatens to tear the party apart and consign it to the dungeons of history. Patrick Kamimo, KTN News.
Well said, Patrick Kamimo. Sibling rivalry that seems to be pulling the party apart. I'd like to pick up on this particular point. Mark Bichachi, I don't know what you have to say. Week in, week out, I'm sure you've discussed over and over again about the Jubilee Party and its politics. Let's just recount what Tuju had to say. He mentioned it's no longer tenable for the DP to use the party platform to advance his divisive so-called hustler politics. Talk about the hustler politics to us.
Well, the hustler politics is obviously divisive because it creates a class war in this country between the haves and have-nots. I know they try to say it's about dynasties, but let me tell you the truth. Whenever you expand a narrative such as that, it simply becomes a class war between the people who have and those who do not have, and the people who do not have are quietly being egged on to say that those who have only have because of privilege are not because of hard work. And when that comes to full fruition, we will have a class war in this country. And I need to remind people that trust Kibera is not very far from Langata, and neither is Madare not very far from other estates in this country. So when we create a class war, instead of trying to create a ladder through which people can benefit, we are getting into trouble. Secondly, the hustler narrative is about wheelbarrow economics. It is not about macroeconomics. It's not about bringing up hustlers. It's simply about tokenism. Now, if you want to understand tokenism, go no further than study one Gideon Mbuvi Sonko with his Sonko rescue team. You tell me what his rescue team has done for Nairobi, and I can also predict for you that since tigers rarely shed their stripes, that William Ruto is headed the same way. And let's not forget, we live in a country where it is not only, it's just hardly 20 years before, we used to have this as a norm. Our politicians used to stop at every market and give people money, and while they were giving people money, other people were being treated to VIP treatment at Nyati House. So this tokenism is not going to help the economy in any way. Giving Mama Mboga a wheelbarrow is not going to help her in terms of the grand economic dreams that she has. Now, that reality seems to be lost to the hustler nation. But you move further and you realize that the deputy president has been sticking his finger up the president's nose from the moment the president shook hands with Raila Odinga. And the reason for that is not because he disagrees with the president in principle. It is simply because it comes into contention of his own selfish agenda to be president of this country by any means necessary. He opposes BBI, not because he does not know it is good for the country, but simply because he fears that it will cause greater fortunes for Raila Odinga than himself. He opposes the fight against corruption because he fears it will attach some of his properties, such as Weston. This is the reality. We have a presidential candidate in Jubilee who is all about him and his, while using people to get where he's going. That is just the reality. Now, why is he being banned from the Jubilee headquarters? Because you cannot use the party headquarters as a campaign platform until you're confirmed to be the sole candidate of that particular party. Because as it stands today, all of 8 million Jubilee party members have the right and the chance to become presidential candidates. Therefore, if you allow William Ruto to campaign there, you must of necessity allow every other person to access that headquarters to campaign as well. Because what is good for the goose is good for the gander. But also, and finally, we must understand that the deputy president has a constitutional responsibility to support the president, and the legacy of the president is not just his, it's a legacy of William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. It does not make any constitutional sense for the saboteur-in-chief of the president's agenda being his own deputy. It cannot work. Even Jesus said, how can two walk together unless they agree? And a house divided against itself cannot stand. The deputy president is doing this country no favors by becoming the leader of opposition when his sworn duty, when he held the Bible, which he values before God, was to stand behind the president and support his agenda. So he's both unofficious, and he's being very unfair to the Kenyan people.
Now, Roslyn Obala, before we go to the other panelists, I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, is it possible to expel William Ruto from Jubilee Party? Is there a potential of Jubilee Party existing without Deputy President William Ruto? Because we've had his allies say they will move and they will move out. It will be like KANU before the 2002 general elections. What do you have to say about this?
Jesse, you need to understand that if you look at the Jubilee Constitution, if you look at the Political Parties Act and the Constitution, yes, the party can expel the deputy president once it has exhausted all the legal mechanisms, including going to the Political Parties Tribunal to put their case and justify that indeed he has violated the Constitution and maybe the code of conduct of the party, then that one they can succeed. But if you look at the statement that was issued on Friday, and it was issued by the Secretary General reading a resolution of the National Management Committee. And you can see these are organs of the party. That is just one of the organs of the party. And they say that the resolutions they have recommended to the National Executive Council, which is actually chaired by the President himself, who is a party leader. But again, you need to look at the composition of both this National Management Committee and the composition of the National Executive Committee. Remember, the members of the National Executive Committee were members of Parliament, the leadership of Parliament. Remember, the President replaced Ruto allies from the leadership in Parliament. So you can see that we are going to have a NEC meeting where the membership is polluted by those allied to the President. So in this case, the deputy party leader does not stand a chance, because if he goes to that meeting, maybe it will just be him and the Deputy Secretary General, that is the Soy MP Caleb Kositan. But again, in the hindsight, if you look at it and you look at the Constitution of Jubilee, they're talking about the National Disciplinary Committee, where we expected that the misconduct of the deputy president would have been forwarded to that committee, as was the case with the nominated senators that we are yet to see the NEC sit to decide. Now, if you look at a number of party leaders, they're talking about the last NEC being held in 2017, and they've not had a NEC meeting to date. But again, if you look at the Constitution, I'll just cite some of the articles. If you look at Article 7.2, it talks about the President of the Republic being the party leader of Jubilee, and the Deputy President of the Republic being the Deputy Party Leader of Jubilee. So I don't know how they will run the two to ensure that when you expel the Deputy President as the Deputy Party Leader and you expel him as a member, how he will continue being the Deputy President.
All right. Rosalie, again, one more, even as you continue, in terms of Tuju has been the focus of the attacks from the Tanga section of Jubilee Party. Are we criticizing the messenger?
I think if you look at it in terms of what you have asked, I think the Tanga are diverting their energies to the wrong direction, because Jubilee, because Tuju did the communication as a Secretary General of Jubilee Party, and that is his role according to the Jubilee Constitution. And this was a resolution by the National Management Committee. And if you look at it again, both the Deputy President and the President are Tuju's bosses. So I don't think Tuju, from where he sits, he will just wake up and read a statement that indicts his own boss. There must be he was getting directions from his main boss. And I think as leaders of Tanga, they need to come open and say, this is where the message is coming from. You don't hit the messenger for giving the message. You direct your grievances and frustrations to the person sending the message. So in this case, Tuju is just a messenger and is speaking on behalf of the leadership of Jubilee.
All right, Kipchumba Karori, Wakili, what do you make of this whole debacle that we've seen transpire in the past week in terms of the Jubilee Party?
I think it was expected because, one, when the president shook hands with Raila Odinga went and explained to ODM what handshake meant to them and what it meant to ODM, the party. But the same did not happen to Jubilee. So I think the first nail in the Jubilee ship began from that handshake thing. Because if it is not explained, politics is more of organized gossip. So if you allow people to gossip and there is no answers, the party lacks transparent and predictable mechanisms. You give room for other things. The other thing, when it comes to the issue of Jubilee and whether they can kick out the deputy president, when you read Article 33 of the Jubilee Constitution, which has been cited by my able friend Roslyn Obala, the drafting of the Constitution is such that the president or the party leader shall be the president. It is couched in a mandatory terms. I don't know how Tuju and the Caliphate are thinking of subverting that article. The other aspect is this: when you look at Raphael Tuju, and I believe also that Raphael Tuju is a messenger. What we are seeing, Jesse, is what we call shadow boxing. Because Uhuru Kenyatta cannot engage his deputy in politics and the deputy cannot engage Uhuru Kenyatta, they are using the proxy. Whatever is happening is proxy war. Because Tuju, where was Tuju? What is the political capital of Tuju? The last time Tuju won an election is when, I don't know when, because the people who are in class 5 then are voters today. So Tuju lacks the political gravitas and capital to answer or to question William Ruto in terms of politics. That must have come from somewhere. And I have a feeling the communication came from Europe for this matter. And also, Tanga, from where I sit from, they need to direct that energy to the person creating the message, not the person delivering the message. Tuju is too weak a political animal to go in any contestation with William Ruto. Before the merger of URP and TNA, Tuju ran an undiscrete political party, which was between a political party and an NGO. When he folded it up, he came to Jubilee. So I don't think the lesser discussed about Tuju in the issue, the better. We need to focus into the grand scheme of the things. The other thing, Jesse, that we must also tell our listeners and our viewers is that in ordinary sense, it is very difficult to expel a party member. Look at how long ANC has taken to expel a nominated member of parliament in the name of Osotsi. Look at how long ODM have taken to expel the commissioner Aisha Jumo and others. The stories are so many. Even Jubilee itself has tried to expel the 6 nominated senators. No, it cannot happen because the infrastructure around our politics is made not on the law, but on political capital. And I think it is dangerous. Also, Jesse, we must capture the issue that our politics still run on personality. Jubilee is William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. The church might regurgitate towards all the national ethos, but it boils down to the two.
All right.
One political party that had 80 members of parliament, the other one folded a political party that has 72 members of parliament. That is the thing. And then the other thing, Jesse, as I conclude, in terms of national unity, we must ask ourselves as a nation, what is good for the nation Kenya going forward? Is it the right thing for us to say handshake came when Bichachi belabors the point of BBI? We ask ourselves, who is BBI coming to liberate? Kenyans do not have a problem with the Constitution. It is the elite who have a problem with the Constitution. Nobody has quarreled with why we have a Chief Justice or why we have a president for 5 years. The quarrel comes from the elite of this country. We must go back to the microeconomics, to the Kadogo economy that empowers that poor woman in Kawangware, poor man in Kibera, so that they have money in their pockets. And Jesse, as a finality, in the issue of why, when people debunk these wheelbarrownomics, I ask Bichachi, we are in the wheelbarrownomics because the Uhuru Kenyatta macronomics have failed. The issue of investing on brick and mortar, investing on huge bridges, investing on roads. When a poor man in Kibera who sells sugarcane, how does having a huge road help him? You must come down and meet the people where they are comfortable.
All right.
Yes,
all right.
Right
to reply. 30 seconds, kindly, very briefly.
I must remind Kipchumba Karori that Uhurunomics and Rutonomics were what they jointly campaigned for and promised Kenyans. So don't try and discriminate between Uhuru and Ruto and pretend. Let me finish. Wilbaronomics, it does not work. It has never worked anywhere in the world. And by the way, if you talk about
Wilbaronomics and Kazi Mtaani Bichachi, you are giving a graduate a slasher, giving him 90 shillings. You are better off giving him a wheelbarrow. He owns the wheelbarrow. You give him a slasher.
All right, gentlemen, let me just intercept right there. It's definitely getting heated up, and it's all about Wilbaronomics. Let me just give this as a pattern shot. I'll definitely give you your final take, Bichachi. But Dismas Mokua might be privy to this, but he forwarded me something. What would have happened if Tom Mboya had given Obama Senior wheelbarrow instead of a scholarship? Even as we ponder on that, let's just take a look at what the party leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, had to say in France when he was put to question on the relationship between him and Deputy President William Ruto.
Relationship with your Deputy President William Ruto, there have been reports of simmering tensions between you and him. So a very simple question, will you back him? Will your party back him as a candidate for the 2022 election?
I have always maintained very clearly, and it has been my position, and I have made it public severally. We have an agenda as a government that we want to complete. We're still almost 2 years away from an election. This is not the time to start campaigning. That's number one. Number two, I have also made it very clear that my intention is to do everything I can to bring the people of Kenya together, to ensure that the next election will not be an election that shall be a tense election or an election that can lead to a potential crisis of ethnicity. And that is the reason I reached out to those who were in the opposition. Now, of course, there are some maybe who feel that as a result of that kind of partnership and me reaching out to the opposition is meant to sideline William Ruto.
So you cannot commit today that you will support him?
My commitment is to peace, stability, and prosperity for the people of my republic. That is my number one function. Once we're over that hill, once, as I said, we now start talking about elective positions, you can ask me that question.
Well, his priority is on peace, stability, and prosperity of the nation. Gentlemen, I know Dismas Mokua and Hesbon Owila have a lot to say on this. Kindly allow us to take a short break. We'll be back with your view on what exactly is transpiring within the Jubilee Party. And you can also add your take on what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say while in Europe. Let's take that short break. We'll be back. Remember, we'll also be back with your call where we get to interact with you and get to also hear what you have to say on the various topics we've gotten to discuss during today's edition of Inside Politics. Stay with us.